From Wall Street to Main Street, this is LALATE.
It's a big evening of Evenings LA with incredible great news about your fourth stimulus check update of 2022. In tonight's recording, we go over the breaking news as an $80,000 new stimulus check is going out to millions of Americans in face of the world events unfolding. In tonight's recording, we'll go over that $80,000 check and how you can get it as wheat prices surge out of control. Gasoline prices growing by the minute and a situation very fluid across the land. We'll be looking at where money is landing and where money could be landing for you with those new $80,000 of checks. Then we'll be looking back at the situation unfolding back on Capitol Hill and Wall Street, as the numbers are very compelling. The President of the United States says that Build Back Better Act will pass and those incredible checks will be coming to you. But how soon will they be happening, and CR for stimulus right around the horizon? All the latest details of what J-Powell is doing to curb inflation and SS300, how it impacts your money across the board. Wheat and oil prices raging out of control tonight, and the White House having new indication of what they may do to curb the situation. Is it soon enough or is it late enough? All the latest details across the board. Cutting back to Ukraine and Russia, Vladimir Putin's acts of aggression advancing across the board. But why is this big and why is it not good? All of the impact on your money back home. Wheat prices, grain, soybean, corn, growing substantially, as the assault by Vladimir Putin on the Black Sea could interrupt international trade, and far more than what we see with oil. But how about those partner countries? Have they done anything to step up? And what is the White House doing to solve the situation? We'll be looking at the humanitarian issue as well, as corridors where families, mothers, and daughters are trying to flee to Poland are being blocked. What is a delegation doing tonight to solve the situation? It's a breaking news with a lot of money at issue, and the incredible money at issue involves your pockets, and it's all impacted back at home. Fourth stimulus, third stimulus, $80,000 of new checks, CR for stimulus. Big money going out from this White House, and not all at the same time. Of all those incredible details in a breaking news 1 hour telecast. It's Primetime's most watched show for financial news in America. And it starts right now as Evenings LA gets underway from the shores of Santa Monica with our thoughts and prayers of the people overseas. Starting this evening. Good evening, everybody. Of a night across the board, and boy, what a night it is. Across Santa Monica, California, the weather is soothing down, but oil and gas prices and energy and also wheat prices surging out of control. How does this impact your wallet? All the latest details in tonight's 1 hour special broadcast of Evenings LA across the land. We're going to go over the incredible money that the president has now dedicated, $80,000 of additional new checks, and the incredible money for third stimulus needed in view of the events unfolding and why energy crisis situations are not being fixed. New comments from the White House today. New comments from the Federal Reserve as well. The Vladimir Putin's acts of aggression advancing even against women and children. What's being done on that? Covered in tonight's recording. We'll be analyzing how a recessionary environment could be in front of us with wheat and grain prices out of control, and this is different than oil and gas. You may be hearing about gas prices at the pump. But what are our partner countries doing? I have the latest details on that, plus how to get big money and big checks. It's all at issue in tonight's 1 hour broadcast, and it starts right now from the shores of Santa Monica, California, sending our prayers to the people of Odessa in this beautiful footage right tonight. Fourth stimulus is the Build Back Better Act, and it pays millions of dollars to Americans across the board. But tonight, great hope, as a $80,000 of stimulus checks have now been dedicated to be sent out before anything else. This is before CR for stimulus. This is before SS300. This is before anything we've ever seen in this history of channel. And the program is going live as early as this coming Monday. If you've been with this channel since day one, we showed viewers how to get money as soon as the EIDL grant went live, as soon as the PUA went live. And this is money you want to get, because it's a lot of it. How much? It's $15,000 to $80,000 of checks per household, and you qualify for it. It's not something you're going to see on broadcast media, and it's only something you're going to see in America's most watched primetime financial news show in America, Evenings LA Tonight. We're going to go over those incredible checks in just a second, but let's start with the Build Back Better Act that passed by the President of the United States in the House several weeks ago, now in the Senate, and now it's going to the finish line, he says in that State of the Union address just days ago. What is in there? It's 3 clusters of checks and 3 add-on checks. And those incredible checks are needed. Let's analyze each of them across the board. In that Build Back Better Act, there is 3 clusters of checks that amount to at least $15,000. And what is in there? Let's look at it. In that first cluster, hazard pay. That is the Earned Income Tax Credit, a third stimulus extended 1 more year. $4,000 of care for children and elderly with checks for them. $3,600 checks for young children, the household checks to repair your home, and then $550 checks for college students, and then more checks to buy a new electric vehicle, $12,500. Now, there are 3 add-on checks with Incredible Recon, and those add-on checks are huge. The first one comes from the shores here in Santa Monica, California, where you're watching Evenings LA Tonight. $25,000 for the purchase of your first home, got in there by Maxine Waters, the legislator in California. Added into the house, staying in there just a little bit less, given to the seller in your name at the time of escrow. Let's look at that second of 3 clusters in that Build Back Better Act, Forced Stimulus Recon, addressed by the President of the United States in the State of the Union address, and going to the finish line. Home repairs and paid leave got in there, and a staying in there. How much is that paid leave? It's a lot. And what is paid leave? Paid leave is if you have to stay home due to sickness or illness. W-2, 1099, you all qualify. So how much money would you get? $1,700 a week you would get if you make $70,000 or more per year. Split in half, $35,000 annual salary, and split in half if you make $15,000 annual salary. Now, if you don't work, but your son or daughter does work and they have to take off of work because of you, then they get it 1099 W-2. Home repairs to weatherize your home also got into this second cluster of checks. Now, the second add-on of checks comes from Bob Casey, a campaign promise for Joe Biden, a little bit less than $250 billion of free home health care for seniors and people on disabilities. Yes, can you imagine if you get sick and you have to stay home, it's not currently covered? Well, they got it in there. Now, let's turn to that third cluster of checks where we find even more deliciousness. Free internet for all checks, seniors checks, farmers checks, independent contractors checks, and checks for nutrition. When we look at the seniors, they got 2 on the House and 3 coming from the Senate, folks. On the House side, they got in there the Medicaid gap fix. They'll provide years of workaround insurance to uninsured people in 12 Republican holdout states. And then they also got in their hearing checks. Yes, you'll get a check for a hearing aid. Dental, vision, and lowering the eligibility age of Medicare from 65 to 55. A provision that the senators vow to add in there as well. And we're talking about the senators adding checks as Incredible Recon. What else would they add in there? MSC. This is a body of legislation that would add additional checks to the recon that already has at least $15,000 to $60,000 of checks. So who gets an MSC? What is an MSC? How do you get paid, and what is that issue? An MSC is, again, more checks to be added to the Forced Stimulus Recon that already has $15,000 to $60,000 checks in there already. This is a monthly IRS stimulus check that comes out to you represented by legislators of the Senate. They tell tens of thousands of viewers of LALATE since spring of last year that they're putting that MSC provision in there, and they're going to pay it out the same way that third stimulus paid out. So who got a third and who would get this fourth? Single individuals, $75,000 less, you get it. Married couple, $150,000 less, you get it, double it. Family of 4, quadruple it. And if you're on benefits, SSI, SSDI, Social Security, or railroad benefits, you get as well. It's not income, it's not taxable. And it's not California stimulus, we get surfboard instead. And there you go. How much money is it? $2,000 the first month, $1,000 thereafter for up to 6 months. This, again, is a program of additional checks, in this case, automatic adult checks, that would be added on the Senate side that the senators say they're adding in there. Joseph Biden, during the State of the Union address, mentioned the Build Back Better Act multiple times, said all those incredible provisions are going out, and he said that since then. So those checks are going out, the Build Back Better checks. But to everyone's surprise, right after that State of the Union address, the president announced $80,000 of more stimulus checks going out to millions of Americans. And this is a little bit different. This is much what brings us back to the history of this channel on day one. On day one of this channel, I showed viewers how to get an EIDL grant and loan, went live. I showed viewers how to get a PUA, just went live. Well, this one's going live, and you ain't going to hear it on broadcast media, you ain't going to hear it on print media. You're only going to hear it on Evenings LALATE. You're watching a special 1 hour broadcast, the most watched financial news show in prime time. And I'm going to go over how to get that check and those $80,000 of them later in this video. But first, let's turn to the other thing you need to know tonight, which is CR for Stimulus 1.0. The President of the United States has a continuing resolution set up for just a few days away from now. It's mid-March, and this is where a potential next check could land. The CR for Stimulus is a continuing resolution. Advocated and created on this channel back in 2020, now we have an inherent deadline in front of us, and what does it look like? Let's go over the details tonight. A continuing resolution is set up for mid-March to fund the federal government. CR. Inherent deadline, yes, mid-March. Amount, $1.5 trillion of discretionary funds. The discretion, Joe Biden's cabinet members. And there we go. It's far more than enough for a $2,000 stimulus check, and he can get it done. We got it done in 2020. In 2020, we had seen a first stimulus check land in our hand. We used it up. Then we needed more. We were told about a second stimulus package, 11 months of negotiations, Nancy Pelosi and Steve Mnuchin, and no deal. So I said, get a check into something else. I came up with the idea. Why not put a check into continuing resolution in December 2020? Inherent deadline, bipartisan support, get it done. And I created the idea on this channel, CR for Stimulus 2020. You, as the Purple Power community of this channel, advocated for it, calling legislators, picking up the phone, calling their staff offices in D.C. and say, put a stimulus check in the December 2020. And they did. Millions of Americans got that $600 stimulus check in December 2020 because of my creation of this channel, and because you, Purple Power, the community of this channel, advocated for it as well. So where are we tonight? Another CR lined up. And 5 weeks ago, we brought it back on this channel. CR is now set up for mid-March, a continuing resolution to fund the federal government. Done. Inherent deadline. Bipartisan support. Negotiation complete. Funding is funded. $1.5 trillion. All we have to do is tell them to make sure they put a $2,000 stimulus check in there. And that is far more than enough funds to get that $2,000 stimulus check in there. But out of nowhere, far before that, out of complete surprise to us, on Friday, the United States announced $80,000 of new stimulus checks. Now, folks, this is a big surprise that came out of nowhere. It leapfrogs in front of CR for Stimulus, and it's even before SS 300, which we're going to go into right now. SS 300 is the opportunity to raise your benefits up $200 to $300 more per month. Proposed as Elizabeth Warren platform for running for president in 2020, Joe Biden adopted it. When he became president, he put it on joebiden.com, part of his presidential platform. The concept is very simple. Your benefits every year are assessed against a benchmark. That benchmark is COLA. If COLA goes up, your benefits go up. Now, the way the benefits go up is once they go up, they never go down. So let's say they go up 2% this year, and next year it's flat. They don't go down. They stay up at that level permanently. So Elizabeth Warren and then Joe Biden said, replace COLA with inflation. This is easy. You know that inflation is high, and it's at the highest price point right now. So Joe Biden promised to swap COLA for inflation. Well, SS 300 is on, baby. The advocacy to Joe Biden to swap out COLA to inflation is happening right now, because guess what? Inflation's at its highest price point tonight. And the breaking news tonight is that millions of Americans are feeling the impact of inflation. And the numbers are very telling across the board. On Friday, the major new numbers for the February jobs reports were released. And it showed that millions of Americans returned back to the workforce because no new jobs were available. That's the good news. The bad news was that when they returned, they got 5.1% more in salary than the year before. Salaries went up, but inflation had gone up 8%, meaning they went back to work because of inflation, and they got paid less compared to the rate of how inflation's going up. This is why SS 300 is needed. By swapping COLA for inflation, your benefits will go up $200 a month right now because inflation is tracking about 8%. And then based upon where it's tracking by the end of this year, it'll be about 4%, meaning you get another $100 when they reassess at the end of the year. Now, what's part of the equation when we're looking at this? Part of the equation is Joe Biden's opportunity to get that swap out now before this guy, Jay Powell, brings down inflation. What's at issue? Jay Powell is head of the Federal Reserve. He governs monetary policy in the United States, and his job is to bring down the price of inflation. You can't keep inflation at 8%, or in some states, 12% right now. So how does Jay Powell do, and what are his options, and what's the great news tonight, based upon the comments that Powell made this week? The Fed chair has opportunities, and those opportunities are 5 meetings in 5 months, called FOMC meetings. At those meetings, he raises interest rates. He can raise them double or single. He can do 2 interest rate spikes in one meeting or 1. And usually as a Federal Reserve chair, his job is to give a little bit of clarity, but not to give too much, not to put himself in a corner so that he doesn't have wiggle room. But with Vladimir Putin's acts of aggression, Jay Powell had to pivot and give us a little bit more. His comments this week were absolutely incredible. What did he say? He said, for March, I'm raising your interest rates up a quarter basis point, the lesser of the 2 strengths, the lighter of the 2 strengths. And then I'm going to stay at a quarter basis point thereafter because I don't know what's going on with Vladimir Putin. So stay calm. I'm bringing inflation down, but not too fast. I don't want to cause stagflation. I don't want to cause destabilization of the economy. That's great news, and it's great news for your SS300. Why? Because inflation is really tracking right at about 8% right now. And that means that if Joe Biden makes that phone call right today, your benefits would go up today. If Joe Biden made the phone call tomorrow or next month, you'd also go up about 8%. That'd be about $200 more per month, and then about $100 later this year. So Joe, make the phone call. The latest details on that coming up later in this video. But the exciting details is that $880,000 of new stimulus checks per household has been announced by the White House. Are you ready to get that money? That's coming up in the second half of this video. We'll be looking at 2 economic forces that the White House has looked at and not looked at, and why the White House needs to pivot very quickly to deal with them. They're all being impacted by Vladimir Putin. What are they? Wheat and oil prices, gas prices. Will they be coming down? How will they come down? What does Joe Biden need to do? And what's the situation unfolding at Treasury? And why has Treasury done and not done certain things across the land? We'll be looking at the oil and gas situation tonight and what could change this coming week. New comments coming from the White House on how to deal with the situation as Vladimir Putin's disruption of delivery of oil and gas from the Black Sea and wheat and similar products like corn could be impacted as well. Wall Street betting some of these risks in the markets, but other risks not embedding. Those details and more coming up as we go into a big second half. We'll be back with you in just 60 seconds. But first, if you need assistance from the community page, here's a little bit about the community page. I'll see you back in 60 seconds as a big 1-hour special broadcast of Evenings LA continues. If you want money right now, not 5 days from now, and not 5 weeks from now, then reach out to the community page. The volunteers can help you find that money for rent and utilities. That's at news.la.com/community. The community page features a series of volunteers who are viewers like you. They can help you find rent, utilities, SNAP, food benefits, mortgage assistance, and help you with eviction moratorium questions as well. Their Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram individuals reach out to them and indicate the city and state you're from, and they'll get back to you shortly. That's a community page. Volunteers working for you, viewers helping one another. Stay with LA for more. Join LALATE daily for the excitement of the new LALATE live daily. The excitement starts on mornings LALATE at 9 a.m. Home LALATE returns at 11 a.m. daily. And then afternoons LALATE at 1 p.m. Join us daily as the excitement continues live from Santa Monica on LALATE. And good evening, everybody. I hope your evening is well. We are on the shores of Santa Monica, California tonight, but overseas the situation unfolding dramatically as corridors that are supposed to be dedicated for women and children to flee war-torn Ukraine have now been blocked by Russian soldiers. Of the latest details on that humanitarian issue, meantime, how the wheat and grain and gas prices issue is really unfolding across the board. And of course, stay to the very end of this video because guess what? I'm going to show you how to get $80,000 of new stimulus checks announced. It's a big night of breaking news in this 1 hour special broadcast of Evenings LALATE, America's most watched show in prime time. Let's go right into the exciting details tonight with the incredible sums of money now being dedicated for millions of Americans in a new stimulus program. $80,000 of checks. $15,000 to $80,000 per household. And this is something you're not going to hear anywhere else except on a primetime show like Evenings LALATE. The White House, in a very quiet statement right after the State of the Union address, announced that a new program will provide $15,000 to $80,000 of stimulus checks to households. If you're a viewer of this channel, you're likely to qualify for it. Why? Because the amount and the eligibility is much like the stimulus check eligibility. Third stimulus check, fourth stimulus check, second stimulus check. Single individual, $75,000 less. Eligibility, married couple, $150,000 less. Eligibility for this, much the same. So what is it called? If you're a member of this channel, which you should be, the link is under the video, you now see this in the membership newsletter. And revamped last Friday night, it's now included with links to apply and the website to go to get the money. It's called the Homeowners Assistance Fund. It's overseen by the U.S. Department of Treasury and will provide an average payment of $15,000 to $80,000 to households for this money. How do you get the money? Through the website, it will redirect you to your local states that will be running the programs across the nation, every state except New York. It's for individuals who have a primary residence, and it will be for monies that many viewers of this channel have asked for since day one but not been available. It includes things like property taxes, mortgage payments, homeowners insurance, association fees, home repairs, and other items like utilities. Average payment is $15,000 to $80,000. You don't have to be behind on any bills. How do you get this money? Where's the link? Become a member of this channel and get that newsletter Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time via the YouTube alert system or the LALATE alert system, and open it up. It's now revamped with a link right into the application. Again, this is $50,000 to $80,000 of checks. Now, if you're with this channel on day one, on April 20th of 2021, I launched and I said, hey, you know what? There is a new program going live, PUA, get this money. There's a new program with EIDL, get this money. This, again, is also a new program about to go live. So it's not live and paying out today, but will go live as early as this coming Monday. So you want to stay on top of this subject. You want to stay with this channel. I'll be watching the websites. I'll be watching the state local situation, and I'll give you updates, much like how we did on day one of this channel. If you have your state going live, send me a message. If you see you got your application approved, send me a message. We'll be on top of the story as it breaks by the minute and by the hour. Now, when we're looking at the big money across the land, we're also looking at SS300. And SS300 is impacted by the rate of which inflation is coming down. Jay Powell this week said that he's only going to do a quarter basis point in the March meeting. But what is he going to do thereafter? And does Joe Biden need to pivot very quickly and get that COLA swap for inflation for my beneficiaries? Let me go over the latest details on that right now. The situation tonight is that Jay Powell says he's staying around a quarter basis point for the next few meetings. This is good because guess what? That would bring down inflation slowly, but not quickly. And that is in view of the world events of what's happening in Vladimir Putin. What does Jay Powell say? He basically says he doesn't know what's going to happen with Putin, and that I can't come in too strong and bring down inflation down too quickly. We have extraordinary uncertainty at the moment, and that we would be prepared to move more aggressively by raising the federal funds rates more than 25 basis points at a subsequent meeting if this is not enough right now. Translation? We don't know what Putin's doing. So we don't want to come in too strong and destabilize the U.S. economy by using interest rates too high, bringing down inflation, coming down too fast. Translation, Joe, make the phone call. Joe, make the phone call right today and get that COLA swapped out for inflation. Remember, the way this works is you want inflation tied to your benefits when it's highest. It's highest now. It's going to come down. But it ain't coming down in 30 days, is the great news tonight I can report to you on evenings. Now, when we talk about inflation, when we talk about SS300, and when we talk about Build Back Better Act, what's important to know? That your value of your check has to have a value. And if the value of the check is devalued because of a recessionary environment, then suddenly all these incredible sums of money I've gotten to you have no value. Well, the situation is all because of Vladimir Putin. What's at issue? In the United States, you're going to hear this week 2 stories, front page news. No, I correct myself. You're going to hear one story, and you're not going to hear the other one. You're going to hear about oil, and you're not going to hear about wheat. Why are we not hearing about wheat? Let me tell you the background of what's going on right tonight. And it's very serious. The Black Sea, which Vladimir Putin is now focusing his aggressions upon, is an exporter of wheat. And Ukraine and Russia are also exporters of oil. Now, you may have heard about gas prices going up, and you may have heard about the impact of gas prices by the Ukrainian invasion. But have you heard about the impact of wheat? No. The 2 subject matters could cause the same problem. Unfortunately, the White House is only addressing one slightly and the other one not at all. Which one are they doing and which one are they not? Let's go over the details right now. Oil. Oil has become a front page news story for obvious reasons. The United States only imports 5% of its oil from Russia, so we're not a major importer of oil. But other countries do import from Russia and are dependent upon oil. Those countries are like Italy. With Russia no longer available to provide oil to countries that we do business with, like Italy, where does Italy get gasoline from then? That's the first question. Second, as less oil is available because of Russia, then the price of gasoline at the pump goes up here domestically. So what do we do to solve the situation as well? That's another part of the equation. And meantime, what is the White House doing to fix the situation to ramp up production of gasoline in West Texas domestically? That's also part of the equation as well. 3 complex elements, not particularly difficult to solve, but let me tell you the situation tonight and what the White House is and isn't doing with gasoline domestically and also internationally. The situation is that domestically, the White House has opportunities to fix the gasoline problem, but hasn't pursued them appropriately. And what's going on? Let me tell you the numbers and what you need to know. First, the concern. The concern is that if you have gasoline prices out of control, or wheat prices out of control, or any other commodity caused by the Russian invasion of Ukraine, the United States economy will go into recession. Not for 1 month, but 2 years. Unemployment will go up, business will shrink, stagflation will occur, and it will be a very bad economic environment. Well, this should be no surprise to anyone that works in the White House. I first detailed 100,000 Russian troops at the Ukrainian border in October of last year, telling millions of Americans on this channel this would be the major economic story of 2022. The White House certainly was prepared as well, and at that time they reportedly had Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen look at the situation of which commodities would be impacted by a Russian invasion of Ukraine. They looked at gasoline. We know tonight, based upon a Reuters interview of the White House, that the White House has not looked at wheat and grain. Now, let's look first at the situation of oil and what the White House is and isn't doing as well. The White House has 2 problems: the amount of gasoline in the United States and the amount of gasoline in our partner countries. Let's analyze it. How does gasoline work? Very simple concept. The more gasoline available, the cheaper it is. The less gasoline available, the more expensive it is. You can produce gasoline if it's in the ground in your country, and if you don't, then you got to import it. Now, if you can produce it, you store it, but you can't store gasoline indefinitely because no one has indefinite storage facilities. So how does this work? In the United States, our gasoline, for example, comes from West Texas. We can ramp up production, and we have extra storage facility. In other countries like United Arab Emirates, they're at full capacity of their storage. So they have to release those stored barrels before they produce more, and they can produce a lot more. In countries like Italy that are dependent upon gasoline from Russia, they're running out of gasoline. So they need gasoline to come from somewhere else. So what are the situations? What are the options? What is the White House doing? And what is the White House not doing? First, the White House has clearly indicated during a series of interviews in the last week that It has not responded to comments and questions from West Texas oil producers, Americans for Americans, saying we can produce more oil. Do you want us to produce more oil? White House has not reached out to them. No bueno. White House has the opportunity for West Texas to ramp up production for gasoline domestically, has not reached out to them, has not responded to the questions. And while West Texas can bring down our gasoline in the United States, not solved by the White House. Now, new tonight is that the White House does signal that it would consider increasing production. It's just that it hasn't done it. A little bit different than saying, I might consider doing it, but hasn't actually done it. And again, this is a subject matter that's been sitting around for over 6 months, since October of last year. Cecilia Rouse, chair of White House Council of Economic Advisors, says, we're in a very good position. I don't agree with her. She says, we're looking at other options that we can take right now if we cut the U.S. consumption of Russian energy. But what's really most important is that we can maintain a steady supply of global energy. Evasive answer. And this is the second time that the White House has provided evasive answers about the subject matter. It started last week when the Deputy Treasury Secretary under Janet Yellen, Wally Adamo, was on a major financial news channel. The 40-year Yale graduate was asked, has the Treasury reached out to West Texas to increase production? No answer. Asked again. No answer. Evaded the question twice. Then, when asked why West Texas producers said, we're waiting to increase production, the White House said, we're waiting for the White House to respond to us. Again, he said, no response. This is troubling across the board. What's troubling across the board is that increasing production in West Texas would ease our price at home. And if we ease our prices at home, then we would have more economic stability for our oil prices across the land. But what's at issue here is that is one of the problems. That is one of the problems to solve. And the other problem at issue is that we have other issues to solve. What happens next? Currently, as we're at the halfway point of Evenings LA tonight, what's at issue is that the White House needs to solve problems not only domestically but also internationally. And those problems involve, first, the issue of supply chain to our partnering countries. Partnering countries that are dependent upon that Russian oil are not getting assistance. And what are those partnering countries? Like Italy. In the case of Italy, it can get gasoline from our countries that we've often allied with, United Arab Emirates. But this week, during an OPEC Plus meeting, OPEC Plus was considered the option of increasing production and didn't do it. And without increasing production, then what would happen? The issue at hand is that if you don't increase production, then what happens next?